If you're one of those people who buys, like, say, dried herbs, or buys a little herb plant from the garden centre, and you just feel drawn to them, but you've got quite a few at home and you don't quite know what to do with them, then this video is for you. And so we don't have to, make complicated rituals or make complicated blends to start off with. And in fact, some of the simplest ways of working with herbs can be like the most beneficial, especially when we're moving through something, as pretty much everyone is in the world right now. I think we need to cultivate that relationship again back with the plants. And it can be really powerful just to do something really simple, like connecting with one plant. So I would encourage you, if you have one or two little herb plants in a pot, to, grow those ones. Don't worry about getting a whole range, and just sort of tend those ones and cultivate like a relationship with those one or two plants. The same with dried herbs, once you get a few dried herbs, you can spend quite a lot of cupboard space in storing them. So just to work with one or two to start with. I mean, if you're keeping dried herbs, then put them in a jar. I've got my chamomile here. That one's a screw top jar, and I've got some calendula, which you can look at these calendula, right? Because you can see the newer ones that I've picked in recent years from my garden are nice and orange, and the ones I bought years ago from a supplier, they don't look happy. You want the nice orange ones. They've got more juju. So that's what I store mine in, but I do store them in a closed cupboard. So say if you were living the apothecary dream and having them all out like on an open shelf in the middle of your kitchen, I would be using dark glass then with an airtight seal jars so that they don't get too much light. If you can store them in a cupboard and keep them sort of in a dark, cool place, they will keep for longer. And this chamomile I've got is actually from my garden as well. I grow a lot of chamomile in my garden. It self-seeds wonderfully all over the spot, and it's great. And the harvesting bit is less great because it takes yonks. It takes yonks for me to cut all that's a very good practice in mindfulness and presence, if you're harvesting chamomile heads one by one by one. But you get this amazing tea from it that you can't replicate with the supermarket and branded tea bags, which claim to be chamomile. You just can't get the same taste. And a lot of people will go for honey with this as well, because you want to steep it quite a long time so it's nice and gloopy, but at the same time I know it can be quite bitter. So a little bit of honey can sometimes sweeten it up. So if you want to get started with herbs, take them in a tea. If you know what you're doing with herbs, take them in a tea. Herbal teas are like a fantastic way to really get to know a plant as well, because you can sort of focus on the taste and whereabouts in the body you feel like the tea moves to when you're drinking it. So the easiest way to get started with putting herbs in tea is you can get these little teapots which have the infusers in, or you can get like infusers separately that just pop into your cup. And as I'm now drinking more and more herbal tea throughout the day, I'm finding I get a bit knocked off with washing the teapot repeatedly throughout the day. So I'm going for like a couple of the diffusers that I can just pop in and out of the cups. You want to start connecting to the plants. You want to start cultivating relationship and really start becoming aware of the benefits beyond what it says in the book that the plant is good for. Then make making tea part of the ritual. Again, we don't need to go and do complicated rituals and have elaborate altars everywhere. You can just make a pot of herbal tea, and that can be the ritual, like being present whilst the kettle boils and while you're pouring the water onto the herbs, and taking some time, maybe in meditation, while it's brewing, rather than wanging the boiling water in over the herbs and running off and doing something else while it brews, then coming back, then just downing it, really sort of slowing down at each stage of the tea making process, and then really sitting with and tasting that tea So making tea as ritual is really giving us that time to slow down in this world, which is needed right now, and also to be aware of the plant that we're working with. So I've shown you my chamomile. This is a really great one for putting in a tea. In terms of like those of you who are growing plants outside, always have a pot of mint, at least one type of mint. I've got about 10 types of mint potted up in my garden. And one of my favourite teas right now is ginger and mint tea. I could drink that all day. I honestly could. I'm also working with hawthorn a lot right now. I'm sitting with hawthorn and drinking hawthorn in tea, and so I might do a video about hawthorn pretty soon. But yeah, if you're working with your herbs, let me know. How do you prefer using them? Do you use them like in salves, or do you use them in a bath, or are you like big into herbal tea? So see if you can afford yourself that little bit of time just to take out to make a herbal tea, and tell me how it went for you. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you soon for another video.